Well, howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Vern's Misadventures. So this will be part 3 of our Amithlon build, and we're going to install some software today. I promise we're going to do software today, but I do have one little upgrade we're going to do real quick before we get started. So, without further ado, let's do this. I promise this isn't going to turn into a whole video full of hardware again like the last two did. So, what we have here is an NVIDIA GX 5500. It's a PCI. It has 256 megabytes of video RAM on it. And it is the top of the echelon recommended for the Amithlon build. So, this should give us the compatibility we need and pretty decent performance compared to what we have. Alright, another thing that I didn't show, I'll go ahead and talk about, is I got us a sound blaster as well. I'm not real sure version, whatever else. Picked it up on eBay. It has the game port that I was talking about in the last video that I wish was still on my motherboard, but now it's got the game port on there, so whether or not we can make it work is yet to be seen, but it has it. So we'll put this here. There we go. We can put our sound card back in. I think we put it right here. So the hope is that with these we'll be able to get some hardware acceleration on our video and make a little bit higher performing Amiga out of our Amithlon out of it. So if you just finished watching the last episode, you probably noticed that I had already formatted my hard drive. I created my partitions, formatted, and even gone so far as to install, what was it, FreeDOS on it, right? I got quite a bit further than that in an earlier attempt to install this software. I took a couple wrong turns, screwed things up, not real sure how to fix them, and then I decided, you know what, why don't we just start fresh? So that's where we're at right now. So we're gonna take the software installation from 0 and we're going to go through it today. So first thing we're going to do is enter the BIOS again. We're going to make an adjustment. 256 megabytes. Look at that. So over here we got to change this to let's see, page up, page down, 256 megs. Perfect. Probably in PCI plug and play. We want to change that to PCI, and I believe that's all we need to do. So with that, we'll go F10 to save and exit. But before we do that, we want to put our FreeDOS disk in here. Alright, with that done, we'll click, we'll go ahead and press enter. Hopefully it will boot to the CD. We press enter when we see the little whale guy. And we want option number 5. You can scroll down, press enter with the arrow keys, or you can just press 5. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is exit disk. And enter. Now, I have my partitions from before, and what I choose to do here is go delete them all and start over. So we'll just press enter, delete partition, go to the next one, enter, delete partition, enter, delete partition, yes. Okay, so at this point we'll press enter again on our free space. We'll make a new partition. It'll be a primary partition. Now, I've done this a few times now, at least this far, and I found that if you don't, that I can get away with a 3 gigabyte partition, which is way bigger than what I need. According to the directions, they say to use like 30 megabytes. But then it formats it as FAT16, and for some reason you get errors when it tries to use it. So just to avoid all that, I just go ahead and make a 3000 megabyte. Now on this deal here, you do not want to initialize it with anything with DOS or Windows. So we'll say nope. Alright, so the next one we're going to do another partition. And we'll make this a primary partition. And I want to go 35,000 megabytes. Start a free space. Again, no. Enter. Then, in the next one, I'm going to make one more partition. And we'll just use all that's left of the drive, because once it's patched, the Amithlon will be able to see up to 120 gigabytes of hard drive space. So that's 114 gigs left, and that'll be fine. So we just press enter. Again, no. And we're good. Now we can start modifying or changing our partitions. So we're going to change the partition type. We're going to go ahead and use other, and we're going to type in 76. 76 is the type that the virtual Amithlon is going to use. Again, we're not going to initialize. And we'll do the same to our third partition. We will change it. We'll go to other and 76. Enter and new. Alright, at this point we'll press F3. The computer will restart. So yes, we do want to write the partition table. And it says to do this, you got to restart the computer, and so let's do this. Again, enter. Option 5. Nice. Okay, so you might have noticed you saw there was an X drive, and that is a CD drive. Alright, so we got our partitions created. Now we can start installing some software onto our drive C. So what we're going to do first is format. So we go format, C:. Now, obviously, C:, is going to be that 3000 megabyte partition. That's going to be our boot partition. It's way bigger than it needs to be, but one, we had some hard disk space we had to get rid of, and two, like I say, I've found that the smaller partitions give me errors. So there we go. For format C:, we're going to put a space and a slash and a sys. Now what that's going to do is going to install basically a bootable FreeDOS system onto our drive C. Okay, we have to type out yes. Enter. And there you go. That's what it looks like when this operation succeeds. Now we're going to copy some files from our CD-ROM. Copy. Oops. X:. FreeDOS. Should have a backslash over there too. Okay, X:, and backslash, and then setup over here. Odin. Wildcards. So the asterisk star. These are wildcard symbols, and that just it basically means all files and all extensions to C:. So we're going to copy all of everything that's in the Odin directory in here. So it's working on that. We're going to put no. We don't want to override anything. We'll probably see that again. So with that done, we can remove FreeDOS and put our Amithlon CD in. And then we got some files we want to copy on that. So we'll let it just read for a second. The green light is blinking on the CD drive, and I'm just going to let it do that for a minute to make sure that it's had time to read. If you jump the gun, you're going to get an error. You're going to have to reset the computer. It's going to lock it up. We're going to copy x:, ISO Linux, all.gz. I'm going to copy those to C:. Yeah, hopefully. Here it goes. It's working this time. So, then, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to use the up arrow on the keyboard to repeat the last line typed. And I'm just going to change it because that's a lot of typing, a lot of directories. So this time, instead of copying what we did last time, we're going to copy small. Okay? And that's done. So up. And this time we're going to change small to Amithlon. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to change Amithlon to loadlin.exe. So up arrow. Right. And enter. Alright, we're going to do the old CD shuffle again. Okay, so we spit out our Amithlon CD. Now we're going to load up another disk that I have that has my kernels. This has updates, patches, and kernels on it. I have the kernels we need in a directory. So what I want to do is hopefully it'll read long enough for me to do this. And we'll do a directory. Excellent. So you see there's two files. One's a checksum and the other is patches with underscore. That's a truncated file name, so we're going to have to type it out exactly as it's written. Capital letters and the underscore. So, what we will do is we will change directory into patches with the underscore. And that's good. Now we can do a directory. And if you see there, about 1, 2, 3, 4 down, fifth one down, I have a file, a directory called kernels. So I'm going to want to change into that directory now. CD to kernels. And in there, we have my two kernels we want to copy over. So I'll just do copy. Again with the wildcards, all files with all extensions over to C:, and I copied my two kernels over, my kernel 310 and my kernel 4. Now we're ready to start editing some files. We're going to edit small and Amithlon, which are basically config files used with the bootable Linux that's on here. We can get rid of the caps lock, by the way. Edit small. Whoops. Small. Oops, I'm sorry. I changed that back to C:. We'll edit small. There we go. First thing we're going to want to do is replace this emubox.gz. We're going to replace that with kern 310. Okay, now we copied this over from the live disk, and our actual installed system is going to have a couple different little settings involved with it. So everything stays the same after console level 0. We do have to make a change. Oh, root equals device RAM 0. That's right, that stays the same. So we're going to put space and we're going to do mem equals 512M. Init RD equals small IRD. Yeah, that stays the same. Now this VGA equals 769. You could leave that the same, but I have found that my monitor prefers the 1024 by 768 setting, which is 773. And then let's see, RAM disk size, this size equals, I've got 2310 here. They want to leave that alone, so that's fine. Leave pages, they got 5200 in the instructions, so let's change that one. Again, I'll have the links in the description for the directions I'm using to do this. At this point, the file we copied over is done, but there's some more on the instructions to write. So we're going to add cache size. Oh, darn it, typing. I'm a little off center here from the keyboard to make room for a mouse to move around. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Maybe I can type a little better. 65536. And then lastly, I'm going to put video equals do Visa. D-O-V-E-S-A. Alright, with those changes done, we're going to put Alt F to bring up the file menu. And then we'll just go ahead and do an Alt X to close it. Now, we could take extra steps here and do Control S to save. I've done that. But it's completely unnecessary. If you just do the Alt X, it'll ask you if you want to save what you've done. Yes is already highlighted, so you just press Enter. Alright, now we can edit Amithlon. We're going to make a similar change to this as we made in the last one. I'm going to change that to kern 310. And that equals Linux RC console level equals 0. That all stays the same. Root equals device RAM 0. That all stays the same. Then of course we had our memory equals 512. Init RD, big IRD, yep. GZ, VGA equals 773 was my preference. RAM disk size equals 12010. That stays the same. Leave pages equals, we got 7400 here, we got 7400 in the instructions, leaving that. So under here we have the Crusoe. We're going to delete that. We're just going to type video equals do Visa. And that should be done. So Alt F, Alt X, Enter, done. So now we can remove the CD and reboot our PC. How about that? Should boot to a DOS prompt from your hard drive C:, and we will boot Amithlon with this embedded boot partition. So yeah, let's pop that disk out of there. Pop the disk out. Oh well, I had the kernels in there anyway. That's okay. All right, I'm going to turn off the computer. let's point you back at the screen so we don't forget to do that. Alright, I'll turn it back on. So it should be booting to our hard drive. Alrighty, at this point we want to type load lin at Amithlon. So the next step here, we're gonna add and format our system hard drive. Now we made 2 partitions. We're only going to do 1 right now. After we get everything patched, we'll come back and it'll be able to handle a large partition the size of our second one. So we're just doing a 35 gig partition. But anyway, to do that, we got to go open into Amithlon hard drive, and we go to Tools. We go to HD Toolbox right here. We're going to select our Amithlon device, and we're going to click OK. Right now, we see we have some different ones here. This first one shows the entire size of the hard drive. We don't want to do that because then we'll wipe out everything we just did in FreeDOS. But there's our 35 gig, it's 34.1. So we'll select that one. It says this drive is not installed yet. Do you want to install it? We'll click OK. And then we can just click install. And proceeding with this change, we'll permanently delete the data upon the drive. Yeah, we want to proceed, so okay. So what we could do is go ahead and jump in here and try to partition it. I've done it before and had it crash. So let's try to partition the drive. Okay. So you see here it's got all these partitions that it's set up in here. We want to delete them all. Delete. We want to take the first partition here. I'm going to drag it all the way over where we end up with one partition at 35 gigs, or 34 gigs, and we save. Proceeding with this change will permanently blah blah blah. Okay. We'll click exit here, and then it's prompting us to reboot to make the changes. So let's go ahead and reboot. This is a virtual reboot. It just reboots the virtual machine. And there it is again. And we should see a hard drive pop up here. There we go. We have our 35 gig, 34 gig, VDH0. So at this point, we can actually format this drive. So I'm going to left click it. Then I'm going to come up here and right click. And then on icon, you can format the disk. We'll change the name of the disk. It says empty is default. We're going to change that to system. Right? Not put a trash can, and we will do a quick format. Format. It's like, do you really want to do it? Are you sure? So there we go. Now we have a system disk. We have a place to install our system to. So the next thing, we need to put our Amithlon disk back in the drive now. Alright, so we put our Amiga OS XL disk back in the CD drive. Hopefully it will show up without issue. Let's see. There it is. Showed up. How about that? Alright, so let's see. If we open up the Amiga OS XL here, we're going to run the installer. So we get the OS version 3.9, which is this one here, I believe. I'll double click. I'll leave that one more. Let's see. Install. And we'll select to use the RAM disk. Updater. Alright, so you got some choices to make here. You want to install OS 3.9 including VB391 and OS XL software. So we'll proceed. This program lets you install. Proceed. And you can look at the user agreement here. And then accept. And then install for real. Then it says which partition? I'm going to say system. And then we'll proceed. We're going to do this in English. Which printer driver should be installed? I don't know if we want any of them. Let's do the file printer and PostScript, and that'll do. Proceed. Yeah, my printer is not listed here, so let's proceed. Which key map? I want American, so proceed. Would you like to install the new 3.9 backdrops? Yes. It says here the installation of Amiga OS 3.9 is now complete. You can use after a reboot. Choose your country and your preferred language via preferences. Okay, select your desired keyboard map via input in preferences editor. Okay, so proceed. And so proceed. Nice. So what we can do now, we're going to take this Amiga OS disk out again. And at this point we can boot into our system. So let's just turn the computer off. And we'll turn it back on. And we will boot into our installed system. At this point we can do that by doing... Oops. You know what? I messed up. I missed a step, and it's an important one too. It's no big deal. Alright, so since we forgot to do that, we got to go load lin at Amithlon one more time. And so we're going to install the, what do they call it? The boot stub or whatever. We're going to run that once again. And so you see we have our Amithlon HD shows up here. In that we're going to go to Tools. We're going to go to Toolbox, HD Toolbox. Alright, we're going to choose Amithlon device. We'll choose the hard drive. And we'll choose the partition we want to work with in the next step. Here we are. We want to go to 34.1 gig. We're just going to click the partition the drive. And we need to make sure this is checked right here. Bootable. Because until that's bootable, we're not going to be able to boot into our system. So we just save that one change and exit. And now we can turn it off. And this time we will go and start our installed system. And we do that by typing load lin at small. So before we were doing load lin at Amithlon, but now to run our installed system we do load lin at small. So let's see if our installed system works. Right on. So now you see you don't have that hard drive tools or whatever that used to be there. You just have your RAM disk and your system. So our next step will be to install some patches. We could actually make our next step to go in here and edit. Let's edit our AutoExec.bat file and make this so it starts all by itself with no need to type anything now that we know it'll start. So we'll let it boot into FreeDOS again. Alright, we'll edit AutoExec.bat. Okay, all we got to do is down here at the bottom on this one here, we'll make a brand new line and we will just put loadlin at small. Alt F, Alt X, and yes. That should make it. Let's see, we got to delete a file before it's going to be completely right. So we want to go to, so we will do a delete fdconfig.sys. One file removed. Alright, now that done, it should work with the AutoExec.bat. Let's see. Let's see, it should just start with Amiga. Turn the computer on, I'm not touching anything. Amiga OS should start. Look at that. Just like a real computer. Alright, y'all. I think this is a good place to leave it. We'll pick it up from here in the next episode. If you haven't subscribed already, I'd like to invite you to do so. Click that notification bell so you can be notified when I get the next episode up. And thanks for watching, and y'all take care.